Hi, welcome to Collective 365's 2021 Grant Catch Up. We are so excited to have Deja of Girls Like Me with us today to talk about what she and her team were able to accomplish, not only with our grant funding, but just in the midst of a pandemic. So, without further ado, I'm going to briefly introduce myself. I'm Fatima, and I'm one of the co-founders of Collective 365, which is an organization designed to invest and celebrate Black and Brown people in DC and in Maryland and in Virginia. We do this by giving grant funding as well as capacity building, and it's open to individuals, groups, businesses, and nonprofits. So enough about me. Deja, please introduce yourself. Tell us what is Girls Like Me, maybe even share the inspiration and anything else that you think would be helpful for people to get a better understanding of why we selected you, because we know all the goodness, but please do share.
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Deja Coley, and I am the founding executive director for Girls Like Me. Girls Like Me is a Richmond-based nonprofit who focuses on increasing the self-esteem and self-efficacy of teen girls. When I was a teenager, I struggled with low self-esteem myself. And it's one of the pillars in our program is that we have no socioeconomic status tied to any of the participants who are eligible for the program. The only criteria is that, and I guess it sounds a little crazy, but the criteria being girls who struggle with low self-esteem. But when people looked at me, people did not think that I was someone who struggled with low self-esteem. And even today, when I tell my story and when, I talk to people who may have known me in the past, they say, I never thought that you would be someone who would struggle with low self-esteem. And so, it was something that I struggled with. It truly was an internal battle for me. And when I got to college, actually in the creation of, like, as I was, laying the foundation for Girls Like Me, because I said, I really want girls to know how to deal with the challenges that come from low self-esteem. Situations where they probably should be speaking up for themselves, but can't, because of whatever underlying fears they may, struggle with. And so I just wanted girls to be able to know what, to have the skills, to have the knowledge around their own self-worth, to know that you don't have to live your life or be someone according to what other people say you should be or who they want you to be. You get to do it in your way. And Girls Like Me is a program that really empowers girls to stand in who they are. Sometimes we run into situations, and we're so thankful for the collaboration and support that we've gotten from Collective 365, because sometimes we get funders who already have an idea for what they want girls to learn and what they want them to look like, and what they want our programs to even look like, right? They say, girls should be this and girls should be that. And our program is unique in that there's data, but there is also just girls who say, this is who I want to be. And our program affirms them and just who they are. We're not looking to change them. We're not looking for them to be anything different. We are looking for them to say, here's who I want to be, and to support them in that journey. So
yeah, that's so powerful. Just being able to, I see the connection between us and you all as far as just allowing people to do them and like stand alongside them in doing that, because they know themselves better than anyone else. And they can do that. And in the comments we have, yes, love the affirmation of who they want to be. So that is so important now. I especially, like, I couldn't imagine being a girl with social media. Like, anyway, so I don't want to get into my own like fears of raising a kid with social media, but thank you for sharing, and thank you for having the vision to do this work. And so briefly, you mentioned um, applying for our grant. But before we get to that, I would love to kind of hear what it was like trying to center girls, affirm who they were in the midst of a pandemic. Like, what was that like trying to operate in the pandemic? If you have any tips or, um, kind of major takeaways of how you all pivoted.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, like many nonprofits, the pandemic presented several challenges for us, and it looked so different for everyone. Every nonprofit had its own, different ways that they pivoted. For us, one of the challenges that comes with being a grassroots organization is that we do not have the resources. Um, so we don't have the resources to be able to pivot as quickly as some
Mm.
other organizations who are larger can. And so for us, we were running our signature program, Know Your Worth, and at this time, this is about March, and so we still had the rest of our session remaining until about June, May or June. And so when the pandemic hit in March, and things really started to shut down, we had to shut down as well. So the
Right.
girls, we were mid-session, and we had parents asking us, hey, like,
Yeah.
can we bring it online? Because that's where everyone was moving. And honestly, it wasn't something that we had the capacity to do. Everything, at that time really fell on me. At the time, we only had about 2 staff members, and they were also students. And so when colleges shut down, they also had to leave.
Right.
So then it was just me. And along with, the organization, there was just life as well, and just being another, everyday person in the middle of the pandemic as well, and having to personally make shifts within my own life and lifestyle.
Right.
And so everything, kind of fell on me at that time, and we weren't able to, and it felt like we failed, honestly, so many of the parents and the girls, because everyone is asking, oh, let's move online. And it wasn't something that we had the capacity to do. However, in the fall, we are in partnership with VCU, and we were able to actually get a staff of about 9 people. And when we did this, that was our number one priority. We have to allow girls a way to still be able to build on their self-esteem and self-efficacy journeys, in a way that is safe, which at that time was just virtual. And so this team built up a online community called Society. What we thought actually would just be for the girls in the program and would be local, actually is something that we can serve girls globally. So,
Wow.
I mean, the pivot, and it took us a while, but and we kind of developed it in increments. So right now we've got quite a few workshops on there on the platform. Along with, each of them comes with workbooks. There's, an aspect where our staff members, which serve as also mentors, where they have access to them, and they can, develop relationships with mentors as well as their peers, all over the world. And so I think of this really as a network like social media, but it's something that, instead of it being a breeding ground for low self-esteem, it's a breeding ground for people to increase their self-esteem and to feel good about themselves. And so, we definitely had to pivot, and it took us a while because of resources, but ultimately we have a community now, that is fully accessible to girls, not just in Richmond, but all over the world.
I I really just want to like pause because when hearing you say like I feel like I failed the parents and the girls, I know that's not the main thing that we're talking about, but I want to pause and say no, that's not true, and hold space for those were your real feelings. but just reminding folks that, doing community work, and doing it when you're under resourced, like it's real life, and you and others are doing this not because you're trying to be the next Jeff Bezos, but because you want to see good being done. You want to support people, and that is not something that you all carry lightly. And so I just want to give space to like saying, you know, you're great. You're doing great. And I think there's still lessons, and I'm sure the girls looking back on it and their families can see that. But just wanted to like name that, like, it isn't your fault, but like there is this tremendous pressure and responsibility um, to provide, because you've identified a problem and now you've got a solution, and now somebody's telling you like, oh, that solution's not a solution anymore, so I just wanted to name that because I was heavy on my heart hearing you say that, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, no. And yes, like that was a loss for them and so thank you for being transparent and sharing that. um And then in the chat, someone said, echoing what Fatima said, it's like climbing a mountain without a rope or water. Yes. So you persevere. Well, you're persevering. I'm trying to not speak about the pandemic in past tense because it's still very much here, just a different degree than March 2020. So shutting down, then, a year later, you find out about Collective 365 funding. What, for those that are watching, there's some folks who are considering like, is Collective 365 right for me? Like, should I apply for a grant? Can you speak to like what your experience was applying? What made you apply, and kind of just what was that experience like, especially in the midst of a pandemic and you being you? Because a lot of times when you think of grants, you think of a grant writer, and like a lot of our applicants they're the grant writer, they're the receptionist, they are the CEO, they're doing programming. So if you could help viewers understand what that was like.
Yeah. So when I learned about the Collective 365 grant, it felt, it almost felt like not a joke, but just like, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that I actually can get funding for these programs without actually having to donate one of my kidneys? That's how it feels, because, during that time,
Yeah.
we don't place a huge emphasis on grants, because, we care more about our individual donors and building our individual giving program. And so there are some grants that we were applying for around a similar time. Like I think that previous November, before we had learned about this grant, we were applying for a much larger grant. They're giving out $20,000, and it's like, it's all some of the things that they ask for. It almost seems like, you really do have to be in a position to they obviously look for more mature organizations and don't understand even the challenges that younger organizations go through. And there's so many grant processes that follow that same attitude. I mean, they're saying, oh, we want an engaged board. Only if people understood how difficult it is to even have an engaged board, to even have a board at all. Honestly, it's super difficult to get together, qualified people who are passionate about the purpose, and then who will show up in the way that we need them to show up. It's very difficult. So it's not an easy thing to just have an engaged board. And I mean, even for us, we started with a board, we've gone through, different cycles, and it isn't until we're about our 5-year mark where we're really starting to have a really strong board presence within our organizational structure. And so when I found out about Collective 365, it was like, what? Like this is almost it's almost like finally someone who sees us, who understands that the need is there, right? we can point to the data. We can show you all the work we've done. We haven't just been sitting on our behinds for 5 years, just twiddling our thumbs. We're doing real work and we're making real impact, and we don't have to go through so much of the red tape in order to prove that.
Yeah.
And even I see it's so funny because as a community member, I see some of these organizations who are getting funding, and sometimes it's like I've had parents maybe of other organizations come and say, they haven't, some of them they may not have spoken as well about, and it's like, man, these people, but this organization is getting $20,000 grants, left and right. They're
Yeah.
getting the recognition, they're getting all these things, and it's not it's like good for them, but it also is like, man, like every organization that's getting funding does not have high integrity. So
Yeah.
it's like, just because sometimes people can furnish the paperwork and furnish the things that they need,
Right.
it's like, oh yeah, they're good enough. And so I think that this collective 365, just the organization as a whole, it recognizes one, the resources and the challenges that Black leaders, Black and Brown leaders such as myself, that we do face.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time, again, when you're a grassroots organization, we don't have the funding to be able to even do this full time, right?
Yeah.
So, like you said, we are everything in this organization, and we do rely heavily on our community, our programs, our individual donors in order to make these things happen. And so, to have finally an organization and a grant process that recognizes the challenges that we have,
Mhm.
it was like a weight lifted off of my shoulders. Like I couldn't believe, and that's just how rare it is. I could not believe that an organization like this even existed. It was it was
Oh,
it was
you're gonna make me
it just
cry.
so beautiful.
You're gonna make me cry. Yeah. So thanks for telling us your story. And Abby's on the call. She's a co-founder and board member. And one of the things that motivates us is really trying to challenge principles of white supremacy, and asking ourselves, why are we doing it this way, and like how can we reimagine what philanthropy is, and from the donors perspective, like those that are giving us money so that we can give it out, but then also from recipients. And time and time again, I say this all the time, Black and Brown people, particularly Black and Brown women, are holding our communities together, and they're making $100 out of a penny. And we are so quick to tap them on the head and clap, instead of stepping back and saying, like, why are they having to do that? What, to your point about like the organization that can write the great 20-page report, but really isn't in the community the way that they are perpetrating, to the organization that can't write the 20-page report because they're in the community. And if they have to choose between 40 hours writing a report and 40 hours doing a program for their clients or the community, they're always going to pick the communappreciate
Every single time. Every
Yeah.
single time.
So it's hard, right? And so for us, it was really important that our application's like 22 questions. I think 5 of them are short answer. And we welcome data, but like sometimes that's just not a thing. Like there are whole departments and people in some organizations doing data collection. And when you're talking about folks who are a team of 1 or a team of 3, sometimes that isn't possible, but that doesn't mean that there's not other ways to show impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for speaking to that, because I think a lot of people that will watch this will resonate, right, with like that being their experience of like, I'm doing the work, like somebody just like see that, and not in a recognition kind of way, but in a way of like, invest in me, like, because when you invest in me, you're investing in you, you know. So thank you for sharing that. Um, Also, want to ask you, what did you end up doing with your funding? And I recognize that um, you have individual donors. So, like, I'm not asking specifically, like, give me a line item of what you did with the money, but like, how did this help girls like me, like, kind of big picture?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when it came to building the online community society, funding was especially important when it came to platform, like pretty much getting the platform in place.
Right.
Because, I mean, even as a nonprofit, and I'm also a business owner, I stand by the fact that, no one should have to work for free. And so, these businesses have fees. And as much as we may want or believe that nonprofits should get everything free or discounted or whatever, we don't. And so the funding was especially really important because without us actually like starting our subscription and getting pretty much saying, hey, we need this, and to start building it, we had to, there was money we had to pay out in order to do that. And without that money, we wouldn't have been able to even, get the platform up and running. And so funding really allowed us the opportunity to develop the platform,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really big deal because if we don't develop it, we don't have it. So that was a really big deal. And then the second part of that was the opportunity to kind of run like a beta test for the community. And so while we are testing things out, learning what works, what doesn't work, kinks, how we want to perfect it, because something that I think is really important, and I tell this to my team all the time, is that at the end of the day, I don't think that it's at all in alignment for us to say, hey girl, you are worthy, and then we don't treat them like they're worthy,
Right.
right? So it always boils down to, when it comes to, putting out products and services, the quality of that, it
Right.
matters. And that whatever we're putting out for these girls, it needs to be quality, it needs to be top notch. And when it comes to that, I don't play.
Right.
It is imperative that not only are we talking the talk, but that we're walking the walk. And so, yeah, the funding really allowed for us to develop the program, and then also be able to run beta testing and figuring out what our challenges and opportunities for improvements are to the platform before fully launching it out to the public, which we are doing this spring. I'm sorry, summer. My dates are messed up. This summer.
Awesome. Snaps and claps. So we talked about COVID. We talked about, what you did with the grant funding. Um, you've been around for 5 years. That's not like a small feat. Like, that's huge. Um, Virginia, specifically Richmond, has a lot of nonprofits, like upwards of like 200. And that's just that are Black and brown led. Um, and many of them don't really make it past a year, let alone two. And so the fact that you are at 5, I want to just say snaps and claps. Yes. But could you offer some advice to folks who are looking to establish a nonprofit, or maybe they're not looking to establish a nonprofit, but they just want to like get engaged and like be problem solvers um, in their communities? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I would say believe that you can. That's first, because I do not come from a nonprofit background at all. Um, and kind of looking like where I am now, looking back, and I'm just like, man, like I know so much more than I did when I first got started.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have the opportunity to get some of the more nonprofit trainings that I need on how to run a board and how to, do programming and grants. And there's still so much I am learning as well. So
Yeah.
my, second piece of advice as well is like, understand that it's a learning process, but don't allow how much there is to learn keep you from getting started. Because at the end of the day,
Yes.
without all of the, I'm just going to call it fluff, honestly, without all of the fluff. Like I said, we're year 5 and we're just starting to, you know, put in place a strong board. Before this, all we were doing is what has mattered to us from day one. And that is finding girls who struggle with low self-esteem and saying, hey, let's lift you up,
Right.
and let's give a hand up to the other people who who need what we have to offer. And so just don't worry about what you lack, only focus on what it is that you actually already possess. Stand in that and see it through. That's just what you have to do in order to see outcome. And at the end of the day, I'm not even gonna say do it from the heart, because I feel like in nonprofit world people say that all the time, but I'm gonna say, keep pushing and just remember why you are doing it. And I mean, we hear that all the time. Start with your why, end with your why, go back to your why. But
Yeah.
that really is the case here, is just going back to that, standing in
Yeah.
why you're doing this in the first place. And that will carry you forward.
Yeah, I think you just dropped so many gems. So I'm going to recap them. Don't let what you don't know or the amount that there is to learn stop you from getting started. I think that deserves to be repeated 10 times over, because a lot of us are conditioned that if you don't have a degree or if you don't have a certain background, then you don't belong. And I really appreciate you letting folks know, like, nope, you can make that space, and yeah, you're going to learn. But even the folks that like Abby and I, for example, are social workers by trade, we're masters of social work practitioners, and we're learning every day. Like there's never a time where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have mastered social work. um, and so I think just that perspective can invite more people to create their own tables, bring their own chairs, and do the work that they know is needed and that they're capable of, and the rest kind of falls into place. The other gem that I loved that you just said is the why and the heart, and I want to add, know your why, and be passionate, but also, like, it's okay if no one gets your why. Not no one, I mean, the people that you're trying to reach, like, they need to get it. But sometimes there will be people who will say, like, Deja, there's another organization that's helping Black girls or girls with self-esteem, like, why are you doing that? And or just saying, like, I don't think that's the right approach to doing this. Like you said earlier, there are a lot of funders who will tell you how to run your program, and they have no background in that, but they have a lot of opinions. So sometimes just remembering, like, it's okay, and to find your people. So thank you for reminding folks of those things, because yeah, there are people that want to invest and then celebrate you. And I'm saying that to you as well as anybody that's listening. So yeah, like we've really enjoyed seeing all that has come from you all in the past year. Can't believe it's been a year. But like, I love that you're constantly like keeping us updated and inviting us to things. One day I'm gonna not have a schedule conflict and get out to something. But we appreciate and just love seeing you succeed. So talking about success, we've only got a few more minutes. I know I said hard stop in 30 minutes, but tell us what you're most proud of, or kind of your highlight over the past year.
So I'm really proud of, so like I said, in the middle of the pandemic, we recruited a team of 9 students to work with us within our organization. And that following year, we retained 3 of those students. Some were graduates. We only, like, the retention rate was pretty high, and I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but we had like a couple graduates. We had some students actually leaving the specific program we're a part of. But we only had a few students that were actually like not returning because we weren't a good fit. But we retain students year over year. And this summer we're looking at, I mean, we've already surpassed, some of our numbers for how many students we've been able to recruit. I mean, some compared to last summer, I think we had about 2 interns. This summer, we already have 6 or 7 confirmed with more applications.
Wow.
In our queue. And so, I'm really proud of one, just where we've come as far as awareness. More people are learning about us. More people are becoming familiar with what it is that we do. We're getting more people. One of our goals is to have more mission aligned supporters. I'm proud to say, but also, it's a challenge for the organization that a lot of the organization has been built on, personal relationships that I have, people seeing what I'm doing, seeing, seeing there, like I've had my dad like get wood and help build. We had like a luau thing when we first started, and he built like, a little tiki hut. And, so I've had people that have supported Girls Like Me from the very beginning. So I'm really proud of where we've come for our awareness. However, I think my proudest is going to be where we've come, the structure of organization. When I think about Girls Like Me and the vision that I have for it, what we were doing, right, when things were just falling on me and they were 100% off of me or my personal relationships, is not how you build a sustainable organization. And what I see long-term, this is work, which it is work that I want to see go on for decades. It's something that self-esteem has plagued all types of people, specifically women, has plagued us for decades, centuries even, and this is work that we're really, like anything else, if it takes you, 3 years to screw something up, it's going to take you longer to fix it. Yeah. And so I'm really proud of the structure that we have built here, being able to participate in employment programs that afford us staff to help build our programs and services, and the trickle down effect of that. When we're able to bring other people on board to become self-esteem experts while also improving their self-esteem, then they can go and they can reach that out. So now when you think about branches on a tree, it's not just one tree now, And so I'm really proud of the fact that our reach is expanding, not just from me, but from me to the people that, work with me, and then to the people that work with them. And, it's just like tree branches. Everyone is branching out. And the more people we can get to get planted right beside us, is the more people ultimately that we can reach. And so I'm really proud of just the structure that we have built to, an example is going to be like, if we have a team of college students, right? And they are now serving as mentors to the high school and the middle school students. And so it is spreading like wildfire. And I'm super proud of that.
And you should be. Thank you for your vision. Thank you for your time. We do have another question though. Yeah. And this will be the last, I promise.
Sure.
Last one. Hi, I'm Abby. It's been so wonderful to sit and listen to you share today. And I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing in the community. So I have a question, because I'm sitting here listening about the work you're doing. The passion in your voice is just coming through. You're such a visionary person. The community is so fortunate to have a voice like yours, action like yours in the community, leading and giving opportunity to young women to really build the confidence that we know they should have and that they deserve. But one of my questions is, you're pouring into the community so much, right? I'm curious what you're doing as an individual, as a community leader, to also pour back into yourself, because we all know when we're giving to our jobs, our community, our nonprofits, our families, we can sometimes end up feeling a little empty ourselves. And as community leaders, it's so important to pour into self so that we can keep doing good work in the community, but also keep taking really good care of ourselves as an example for the people around us too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hate this question, but I love this question. You know, as like you said, community leaders, we hate this question, right?
Yeah.
But I love it because it does give me an opportunity to share what it is that I'm doing, because I know, like you said, so many other community leaders who are just give, right? So a couple of things that that I do is, one, I am big on boundaries. I'm big on boundaries. So, you know, Girls Like Me, we have business hours. And no matter what it is that we're doing, it is true as any type of owner or operator of anything, you're always doing it. So even like over the weekend, or if I see opportunities, you know, I'm jumping at it. Doesn't matter if it's on a Saturday, Sunday, but you know, we have business hours. I don't work outside of my business hours. Weekends it's, you know, that's my time. And sometimes, you know, we may have a fundraiser here or there, but for the most part, it should just be me showing up, things like that. So yeah, boundaries as far as, you know, my business hours. It's been very important to find dedicated volunteers who we can rely on. And so recently we've been able to recruit someone who can help take some of the load off of me. And so nonprofit, and I can spend more time actually working on the nonprofit. So being able to delegate more tasks to someone who can, you know, work a little bit more on that, so that I don't have to. So being able to really find those people, which is difficult, and I do not mean to make that sound oversimplified at all, but getting help, ultimately getting help to delegate. And then I would also say there's two other things. The other thing that I do is I've built our session, kind of like our organizational calendar, around a period of time where I can get a break. And so as we go into, so our full session is September to June. And then through the summertime, we don't have any programming for the most part. It's really just team management, which again, having help makes that 10 times easier. And then the last thing I would say is, when you are doing something that you love and that you are passionate about, it feels like it is pouring back into you. And so I think that the work that I'm doing is pouring back into me. When I had a grad student have to do like a end of year, you know, assessment with her school that I attended. And, you know, she says, you know, I really credit to Girls Like Me and Deja the concept and practice of free thought, because when you're coming, you know, in the world, period, I mean, we're humans, we have a herd mentality. And so when, you know, especially when you're in college and you're coming out of high school, some of those very structured learning environments, they're not championing creativity and free thought. They have a special way they want it done. Do it this way, do it that way, right, wrong. You know, it's very, very binary and strict. And when we have people come and work on our teams, I am a person who values them as people, and you're different than me and you have your own uniqueness. And I want you to stand in that. I want you to literally come and show up as who you are. And so you know, she said that was one thing she said, you know, I really credit this free thinking thought. And one of her professors asked a question as well about, you know, in nonprofits, as we know, it is a challenge for Black and Brown leaders. And in some organizations, it's hard to not have some of those traditional ideals that may be more so more corporate like. And he asked, how are you guys combating some of those challenges? And she said, well, you know, our team is made up of pretty much all women of color. I think we have, our team is majority women of color, and different types of color. We have 2 African-American women, one being myself. We have, you know, several Hispanic women. we've got like Peruvian, we've got so many different types of women. And then we also have American Caucasian women as well, so she said, just by us being, we are combating those challenges. And so when I hear, my team especially say things like that, it's pouring into me, because I think what matters most to me is just being able to be an inspiration to others. And that in itself is enough for me. So it pours back into me just as much as I pour back into it. So those are some of the ways that I can manage myself and, not getting burnt out with running the organization.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I think so helpful to hear examples of what other leaders are doing in terms of supporting themselves through this journey, because we need more really beautiful thought thinkers like you, thought leaders like you. And I really appreciate hearing a lot of the things that you said. It spoke to me. Thank you.
And want to reiterate again, one of the gems was boundary setting, and having an understanding that self-care and self-love can sometimes be community work. And I'm trying to get through Bell Hooks, All About Love, and everything in the world distracts me from reading these days, but she speaks about that, and that resonated with me when you were talking about doing this feeds you. And then I also have some feelings around how sometimes that can be a toxic relationship if you're not careful, but that's another TED Talk. But thank you for your time. I know we got a late start, but this has been great for myself, and I don't want to speak for Abby, but I think Abby's nodding in agreement. Yeah, it's been great. Although the money in our official working relationship from 2021 has ended, we do hope that you will keep in touch with us. If you want right now, tell folks how they can get in contact with you, like if they're wanting to enroll their daughter or a young lady in their life. Also, if you have any upcoming events that you want to plug, and then the big thing, how do they give?
Yes, of course. So if you all are interested in learning more about Girls Like Me, how you can get involved, how you can enroll your daughters or your granddaughters or your nieces or your goddaughters, any girl in your life, you can reach us at www.girlslikeme.org. And then if you want to just shoot me an email, I have an open door. It's exec@girlslikeme.org, as well as my email. You can also give us a call at 804-251-0959. And if you guys are interested in giving and supporting the work that we are doing within our community and all over the world on our journey to ending self-doubt, you can also go to girlslikeme.org and click on the giving tab to just submit a donation, or you can become a part of our individual donor program for as little as $10 a month. So thank you so much, Fatima and Abby and all of the Collective 365 for your support. We will most definitely stay in touch, because again, at the end of the day, it's the community and the support that really helps us thrive. And again, you guys are branches on the tree. So we are so grateful for your support, and we will definitely keep you guys updated on what it is that we're doing. And you guys can also follow us on Instagram, Girls Like Me RVA, Girls Like Me RVA on Instagram. So awesome. That's it.
Thank you so much, Deja. Again, we were confident that we made the right decision, but when you hear from somebody a year later that in the midst of a pandemic, because we don't know, our funding is unrestricted, and so you never know what we didn't have we never have real expectations as far as they better do this. We try to be fluid, but it was just, it's so refreshing and inspiring. and inspiring and inspiring and inspiring and motivating, like double inspiring, to see what you've done and the trees that you've planted in the community, and how they're growing. So on behalf of Collective 365, thank you, congratulations, and like we know the best is yet to come. Like I know we're going to be hearing about you and on your 10th anniversary.
That's right.
So yeah, keep up the good work. Please remember to pour into yourself and give from the saucer that holds the cup and not the actual cup.
That's right.
And yeah, please keep in touch. For those that are watching, thank you for watching and listening. Please, please spread the word about Girls Like Me, as well as Collective 365. If you're looking for ways to get involved with your community in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and invest and celebrate in Black and Brown folks, you can do so by visiting collective365.org. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day. Protect your peace, protect your joy unapologetically.
Thank you, Deja.
Thank you.